Time to review a bike.
In order to get into this video, we gotta back up a little bit. Until late 2019, you guys had never seen a non-Ibis mountain bike on my YouTube channel. Well, 2020 came around, a few things changed a little bit, a lot actually changed. I'm definitely underselling 2020. But before 2020 got weird, I got an Orbea Occam in the mail. And for me, that was a big shift because it was no longer an Ibis bike. It was small, it was light, it was flickable, and it was just a fun, playful, all-around trail bike. Then again, 2021, and then in 2021, Orbea sent me the new updated version of that same bike. They called it the Occam LT. But the other day, Orbea came out with an updated, proper Orbea Occam, and I just got one last night, so let's slide this box over and take a peek at it. I gotta position this box so I can knife it. Oh, it's all recyclable packaging. That's cool. The most underrated tool in any mechanic's tool chest, pair of scissors. I should probably carry my scissors in my Carhartts, kind of like all the country boys do with their little pocket knives, and then I can... Yeehaw! I will snip you. Oh, headset cable routing. Well, at least I don't have zip tie fever this time. Let's see this beautiful black color. It's kind of like a brown metal flake. I like it. Before we get into actually riding the bike, I want to give a big thanks to Jensen USA, who sponsored this video and made it possible. Jensen is an online retailer in the United States and North America, and they sell Orbea bikes. I just checked and I saw a bunch of Occam LTs currently in stock and available now, as well as some of the older models, which I also quite enjoyed. I've got a link in the description down below. It takes you over to Jensen USA, right to all of the Orbea Occams that they have available now. And anything you purchase from Jensen will directly help support my channel. It's a big part of how we make this all happen. Thank you so much for supporting me with doing your shopping at Jensen. I really appreciate that. Again, big thanks to Jensen USA for making this all possible in the first place. Let's get back to figuring out the new Occam LT. Don't look down right here. One wrong turn, going into the abyss. And welcome to the first ride on the 2024 Orbea Occam. I'm curious how this thing feels. Yeah, pedal's really similar to the Stump Jumper. Pretty open feel, not a big deal. Pedal's fine. I wouldn't get bent out of shape pedaling this thing for a ways. Let's actually do that before we say that.
Background info.
As things do, the Orbea Occam has evolved substantially from the adolescent trail bike I rode in 2020. A year and a half later, in 2021, the Occam grew a little more muscle, with a longer fork, heavier shock, and more progression. But it wore its newfound muscles with a little bit of awkward shyness. Ew. Will the new evolution of the 2024 Occam earn the bike the sort of maturity it needs to become a permanent fixture in the world of trail bikes? Let's find out. Oh, way better than the old Occam. Both prior models of Occam utilized the same carbon molds, and that rode great for much of what I like to do, backcountry rides on chunky terrain. Despite a fair bit of suspension travel, 140 and 150 millimeters, it never really rode like a bigger bike. I would compare the bike more to the 120 Travel Ripley than I would to bikes like the Switchblade that did sport similar numbers. And that was a good thing. I really liked the way the old Occam wasn't too low to the ground and not too long and slack, and that kept it a very practical all-arounder. But things were not perfect in early Occam land.
Prior bike issues.
The little bike wasn't the stiffest, neither in suspension nor in frame rigidity. While I could solve the mellow suspension curve easily with volume reducers, more high-speed compression, or a stiffer spring, the frame rigidity was something I'd never be able to solve on my own. I really began to notice this frame rigidity issue when I spent more time on the electric version of the Occam, the Orbea Rise. The Rise has a much beefier tube set, mostly to simply house the battery in the down tube, but the side effect of all that beef was a heart-attacking confidence, and I really liked that. Landing from jumps and smashing through trail rubble, hopping hard on the front brake, none of this stuff forced the Rise frame into noodling about like it did the older Occam.
The new Occam.
Now, did I break something or just bottom something? This O-ring was on the bike when I started, so we need more air pressure in back there. 2 clicks at rear, 2 clicks up front. Can definitely feel how much stiffer the bike is. It's so much better than the old one. There we go. No bottom out now. All right, shocks are set up much better. Let's go ride some trails. Well, the latest update for the Occam splintered the bike into two categories, the LT and the SL. The SL is the bike for crushing epic backcountry miles. It takes what the old Occam did particularly well and continues that in the name of evolution. Now, more my black and double black diamond wheelhouse, the LT is intended for riders who either frequent purpose-built mountain bike trails with many a jump, or those who are simply aging BMXers. If you're looking more for sweet jumps, creative lines, and tasty berms, rather than FTP tests and shock lockouts, then you're also an LT rider.
Based on the 2023 Rayón.
If you follow Orbea closely, you may notice that the new Occam LT trail bike is nearly identical to the prior enduro bike, the Rayón. This is a good thing. The Rayón was a great bike, and I love my time with it. I'll link to a review video all about that Rayón up in the corner above. Now, despite the similarities on paper, for everyday riding, I have preferred the new Occam over the old Rayón. The 36 fork is just a bit more lively, and the slightly shorter overall length ends up being really fun. While the Rayón did well on a day of riding the Whistler Bike Park, the Occam is more fun on trails that I find myself riding more often. Or maybe I just didn't break my foot on the Occam, and therefore it's better. I'll let you decide for me in the comments down below.
Parts.
Before I ever rode the Occam, as I do with most bikes, I switched off the thin wall, hard rubber compound stock tires for my normal, preferred tires. I've got the Occam LT all put together, but I gotta swap the tires out to heavier duty casings, and then we can go do the first ride. In this case, I used the Maxxis combo of the Ascii 2.5 double down max grip tire up front and a Maxxis Minion DHR2 double down max grip rear. While the bike gained over 2 pounds of weight, I could now ride it without risk of flatting or face planting on the wet rocks. After a few rides with all the rest of the stock parts, I was looking forward to changing a few things and really letting this bike spread its wings. I might swap out the seat post for a longer drop unit. This one is only 170, which is pretty decent. I'd still prefer a 200 if I can fit it. And I could on the old Orbea LT. My largest complaint was with the stock saddle and seat post. The lack of drop was frustrating, but the crazy slow return speed of the stock dropper post didn't make me mad, it just left me disappointed. For a saddle, I do prefer the WTB Silverado. With this seating combo in place, the bike went from econo to business class. The low stack height combined with the nearly flat stock handlebars were not as comfortable for me as the taller front ends I have on most of my own bikes. I did swap to some taller 40mm rise handlebars along with some softer grips, a change I really enjoyed. The wheels have not been amazing, and they do have a bit of a hop in them. I'm not sure how that happened, but most wheels that I ride do eventually get hops. Perhaps we should start brewing some IPAs with all of those.
Sizing.
Just like I was in the last video, I'm a smidge over 5 foot 8 inches tall, or 174 centimeters. According to Orbea, I could ride either a medium or a large, but I am absolutely happy with the size medium and definitely do not want to ride the enormous 485mm reach size large. My preferred reach for modern full squish trail bikes is around 460mm. After a few months of riding this bike with the taller 40mm rise bars, I found it to be exactly the size I like. Looking through the Orbea geometry chart, the sizing uses 25mm gaps, so no huge surprises there.
Issues.
The Occam has been a great bike. I've really enjoyed riding this thing. From the mellow, low-angle trails, it allows for plenty of speed and responds really well to rider input. And on crazy stuff built for the kids, well, it can handle plenty of abuse. I need to complain about a couple things though. First, the headset cable routing. It's either gonna go over or it's gonna go under. I think it's gonna have to go over. I'm sorry, I've never done this headset cable routing. I'm looking at the website. I don't know what to do. So this beautiful new cable routing, it's made to be extra beautiful. If you do it over, all of a sudden you gotta look at your cables. If you do it under, it works, but you just gotta mash your cables into your carbon handlebar. All right, cables bend. Don't break. Jiminy crikey. Why, oh why, oh why? The resulting interlocking headset spacers are a hassle. Do not lose one of those. The tube-in-tube shift housing is also working its way out of the chainstay. Not only is this headset routing more challenging to work on when it's time for maintenance or when traveling with the bike, but it creates much tighter bends for the shift and seat post cables, adding friction. From the cockpit, the headset cable routing creates an unsightly, cluttered mess of cables. The whole headset cable routing concept was designed to look good in side profile photos of the bikes on the internet, and in reality, looks far worse in real life than what we've done for the last 10 years. Please, bike industry, stay strong, stay out of the headset. The suspension linkage on the seat post did loosen up quite a bit, and the included multi-tool was not able to tighten it up on the trail.
So what do you got going on over here? Oh, that's not good. Oh yeah, that was loose. All right, try your squiggly wiggly. Oh yeah, there we go. Sweet, we fixed it.
A couple of times the rear axle loosened up, something I've noticed that can happen on all split pivot style Orbea bikes. Also, the door for the internal storage compartment started making noise after one big impact.
I wonder if it's the water bottle cage. You can hear a loose rattle that then reverberates through the bike. Makes it sound like something horrible is going on, but it's just a little loosey loose. I shouldn't even show this in a video because everyone's gonna think they're gonna have this problem. Check our bolts, that's tight. Tight. Got tighter. Still hear it.
Comparisons.
The Ibis Ritmo is a bike I've been yapping about for years. It's also an extremely popular bike. I'll certainly admit it's not perfect, but it has been among my favorite all-around bikes and a bit of a gold standard for comparison. The Occam is now right in the same game as the Ritmo. The ride feel on the trail is definitely a bit different. The Occam is a little bit easier to get airborne, though it doesn't pedal quite as well. With that split pivot design, I do think the Occam gives up a little bit of overall reliability, but it's not too big of a difference. There is a huge topic to discuss here though, the sizing. While I ride a size medium, and the two bikes are nearly identical in size medium geometry, the large and XL are a very different story. In the larger sizes, the Occam gets a more contemporary geometry than the Ritmo and will fit more riders. If you've had issues with Ibis sizing in the past, I recommend taking a good look at the Orbea Occam. The minor quibbles I have will be quickly negated by the better fitting geometry in the larger sizes. The Yeti SB140 was a light, fast bike with a bit more refined suspension system. I did find the Occam to be a little better suited for the chunkier and tighter trails. I did prefer the Occam's feel in many of the more backcountry scenarios, as the extra 8mm of bottom bracket clearance only helps. Keep in mind, in the larger sizes, these two bikes will feel quite different, as again, the numbers change quite a bit from size to size. The Specialized Stump Jumper Evo is a really fun bike and very popular for a good reason. I felt Specialized played the gimmick game a little bit better with a much better in-frame cubbyhole. Specialized also plays the adjustability game better than Orbea, with more significant and proper configurations available. The Orbea pedaled a little bit better than the Stump Jumper, but the Stumpy was also a little more solid feeling and overall rigidity. For my size S3, the Stumpy uses a shorter reach but with a slacker head angle, and kind of like with the Canyon Spectral, it ends up creating a very different ride feel. Not quite as fast or predictable in the easier stuff, but more purpose-built for the steeper, more aggressive terrain. The pivot switchblade feels very different to the Orbea Occam. The dual-link suspension is an improvement, though the way it's implemented rides very differently. The switchblade pedals insanely well. However, for me, the Occam was much more playful. The 10mm shorter reach was a blessing for rider input, for jumping, for wheelies, all that. I did have more fun on the Occam than I did on the switchblade. The slacker head angle of the Occam was more ideal for my riding style and location, though I was able to adjust the switchblade with that geoset. For true desert style, more high-speed riding, the switchblade will excel, and I think it'd have a reliability edge. But these two bikes have a very different feel, and the Occam SL would likely be a closer comparison, as that also values efficiency over send.
Conclusion.
The latest Occam is the best one yet. I feel I can give this bike a very sincere compliment in that when I'm riding it, the bike simply disappears beneath me, allowing me to focus on the trail and trying all sorts of silly things that look like fun. Yet the new Occam does this without diluting the experience on the easier bits of the ride. Orbea has clearly listened to rider feedback over the years, and I think they've evolved the bike in some very astute ways. Tip of the hat, Orbea. Well done. Now, unfortunately, Orbea has fallen prey to some of today's trendy gimmicks. This isn't ideal, but in no way did that ruin my overall positive experience with the bike. While I love the this video, and to Orbea for loaning me a bike to test out. I'll link to the 2024 Occam models over at Jensen USA down in the YouTube description below, and as always, anything you purchase from those links supports my channel and is a big part of how we make these videos happen. Also, big thanks to all of you for tuning in, watching, and listening to these videos. I really appreciate all of you being here. Alright everyone, peace and wheelies, I'll see you in the comments down below.